I am really thrilled to be here with you, young gentlemen, young ladies, teachers, parents, guests. I am traveling and speaking to big groups, sometimes 1,500, 2,000, the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. It is wonderful. What I wanted to accomplish with this, to tell the story of Holocaust, which were part of my life when I was only 17. With that, I wanted to make a bridge between different nationalities, religion, color, or creed. Because this is the most important thing. We are getting old. The survivors, rescuers, we will be soon not here. But you will be the future leaders of nations, and especially you, young Jewish children. You have to be proud that you're Jewish. Remember, because you grandparents and parents of your grandparents perished during the Holocaust only because they were Jewish. You have to remember, because when you grow up, you have to tell your children. This is to record I am here to record the eyewitness testimony. Like I say, I was only 17, a little girl with 4 younger sisters. We were very close family, and we were at peace with God and people. I was born into Catholic faith. When I went to the high school and finished my high school, I did have the desire to study, to be another Florence Nightingale, another nurse, the best one. My father signed me to the best nursing school in middle of Poland, 200 kilometers from my home. My home was very close to 8 kilometers from German border. My school was 200 kilometers inside Poland. And I tried to study. I tried to be the best. But before I even started, Hitler, without declaring war, invaded my country, and there was a war. An unbelievable horror unfolded before my eyes. One day, I am with my parents, with my 4 younger sisters. Next day, there is a war, and I am alone. I could not go home, because the Hitler was already there. So I was forced to face the war alone, and Hitler was moving with the speed of lightning. Polish military did have to retreat. And some of the nurses, the oldest one, that felt responsible for me, they joined Polish army that did have to retreat. And they took me with them. And for days we were on a run Hitler was pursuing. In 3 weeks, almost by the Russian border, the war was over. Hitler and Stalin made a pact. They divided my country in half. And I did not know what I will do, where I will go. I felt like a little girl. So with remnants of Polish army and some nurses, we escaped to the big Ukrainian forest. But before Christmas 1939, big Russian patrol overtook us. I was running, I was scared. I was violated by Russian soldiers. And I was left in snow to die. But I didn't die, because that was my destiny. Somebody found me, brought me to a Russian hospital, where a Russian woman doctor took care of me, not only as a physician, but as mother would do in this situation. So I survived. In 1940, towards the end of 1940, there was exchange of Polish population between the German and Russian. And I find myself back in middle of Poland where my nursing school was. There, I thought to find my family. I did not know how I survived. Luckily, I found a girlfriend with whom I went to the nursing school, and she offered me her home. One day, I was picked up by the Germans right from the street and forced to work to ammunition factory. Radom did a very big ammunition factory which the German took over. There for the first time I realized what was happening to my Jewish friends, to some persecuted Polish people, to the gypsies. But we were forced to work in the factory. One day I fainted, and I fainted right in the front of the old German major, who was the head of the German organization that supplied ammunition, gun, and transportation for the German front. I was scared, so with my best high school German, I tried to tell them that I want to work, but the chemicals make me so sick. Well, he took pity on me, maybe because I was blonde and blue-eyed, maybe because I spoke German. He said, I will give you another job, but you better work or else. He assigned me to serve breakfast, luncheon, and dinner to his officers and secretaries. The food was good. I started feeling better. But one day, as I was going to work a different way as usually, I came face to face with a nightmare, with unbelievable horror that changed my life. The cells were beating, pushing, kicking mass of people from beyond barbed wire encampment. There were so many. There were old men and women. There were pregnant women. There were people on crutches. There were people wounded, and most of all, children. All sizes, all ages, little tiny ones, 2, 3, 4-year-olds. They were going along. They were screaming, Mama, Mama. I could not believe my eyes. What was happening? I did witness even the baby being pulled from the mother's arm. And I could only stay and ask, God, where are you? Where are you? When I was coming down, I could hear shooting from far away, and I knew that each shot was aimed to kill another human being. In my girlfriend's house that night, I could not believe in God. I lost faith. I cried. Like a little child, I threw tantrum against my maker. But you know, in the morning, there was an answer in my heart that God gave us free will to be good or bad. And it is up to us. Each of us have to choose what we want to be, which road we take, the good one or evil one. And I knew that I will help, even if my life depends. I prayed for that. And the opportunity arrived for me. Now it was 1941. Now the Germans were fighting the Russians and pushing them almost to Kiev. And the whole ammunition plant was moved behind the advancing German army. And I was moved with the plant. I find myself now in Ukraine, very close to Russian border. There the old major assigned to me still the same responsibility to take care of the laundry room for the German officers and secretaries, and also to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinners to his officers. In the laundry room, I befriended 12 Jewish people. There were once people like all of you parents. There was a teacher, there was a lawyer, there was an accountant, there was a doctor, there was a nurse, and tailors and dressmakers. Now alone, without children, they did have to do the job or die. And as I was carrying the clothing to them to be washed, they trusted me, and they told me story of the broken lives. We become friends. And at night, as I was serving dinner to the German officers, I noticed quite often the local head of the Gestapo sitting with the major at the dinner table. I start listening to the conversation. And soon I start realizing when the Gestapo man was making plans for unexpected raids on ghettos and work barracks. I start carrying the information to the laundry room, to my 12 Jewish friends. And without knowing what we were doing, we created Grapevine Information Center. I become the ears and the eyes for the Jewish working there around 300. I could not go to the factories because I had nothing to do there. But my friends could. People were warned before action. Few have place to go, and some escaped to the big Ukrainian forest. About 8 kilometers from the town of Tarnopol was very heavy woody forest, and many of the people escaped there. We were able to save many lives. But when the time came for the total liquidation of ghetto, I overheard that. And I did have to go and tell that to my friends. They were besides themselves. They asked me, Irene, please help. But what could I do? I was not with my parents. I was alone. I did not have home. I was assigned to little tiny room by the diner. I could not take them there. But I knew if I don't help, my friends will be dead. There was nothing I could do. And I believe a miracle happened for me, because a few days later, the old major called me and he said, I have a villa and you'll be my housekeeper. When I did see the villa, I just knew there is a place for my friends. So, without making any preparation, I trusted so strongly that if in the last minute the opportunity is for me, with God's blessing. So, I opened the window to the German Major Villa, to the call shoot, and one by one, they came there. There were 12. It was not easy, because the Major wanted paint and clean the villa. The German soldiers were doing the job. But we were surviving. When they were doing downstairs, I put them in an attic. When they were doing upstairs, I put them in a cellar. 2 of the people from 12 I was hiding, they lived in the town of Tarnopol. They were born there. And they said to me, Irene, this villa was built by Jewish architect. There must be a hiding place. We start searching, and we find it. It was there. Right underneath the coal chute was a wooden wall. When you remove a couple of the boards, exposed opening that led underneath the ground to the garden, and in the garden was a gazebo, and underneath the gazebo was hiding place. Was not big, was 8 by 9 by 9 octagon building with a very tall stone foundation in which there were many little herbs cleverly hidden, and there were bushes all around. Dr. Lifshitz, who was the smallest in his size, he did go there to search out. He came out, he said, we will survive, we have place, we will survive. So we were preparing and seeing how long it will take to go from the cellar through the passage underneath gazebo. We put some food, we put blankets, we put pail for water, pail for waste, and we were surviving. In meantime, in Poland, on every street corner, there were signs saying, this town is Jew-free, and whoever will help, the sentence is death. But we were surviving. 2 of the people from 12, the oldest couple, they were about 35, 36 years old. About 2 months later, the lady told me she's expecting baby. Everybody was scared. Baby would cry. And the major did have many parties. There were Gestapos, there were German officers and secretaries. They were scared. Dr. Lifshitz gave me prescription. He said, we have to abort the baby. I could not do it. Because you know that in kaleidoscope, I could see the little faces of children going along to death, screaming, Mama, Ma. I could not do it. So I pleaded for the life of the baby. I said, Hitler will not have the baby. They listened to me, and we were surviving. Now, they came to Villa 1943 in June. The same year, in autumn, I was in town, and like from nowhere, Gestapo was every place. And whoever was on the street, Polish, Ukrainian, they push us to one place, and they force us to watch a Polish couple with 2 little children and Jewish couple with the child. They were hanging in the middle of the marketplace. Remember, I was young. It was unbelievable. I could not tell you how it felt. When I came to the villa, I was so distraught. I was so shaken up that I forgot to close the door. And standing in the kitchen, 4 Jewish girls came out from the cellar to help me, as they usually did when Major was not there. The door opened, and the Major was standing right in front of us. He was shaking with anger. He was so angry. And without saying one word, he turned around and walked to his library. I ran after him. I was scared that he will call the head of the Gestapo and he will come and get us. So I ran after him. He was yelling and screaming at me. I knelt down. I was pleading. I was praying. I said, you know the murder. You didn't kill anyone. Please forgive me. They're innocent people. Well, finally he said, Irene, you are for a few years with me. You've been with me. I don't want to see you dead. But I am German. I have my order. And he said, I will go to my office. I have time to think about. I have time to compose myself. He went. I locked the door. I ran downstairs. Everybody was ready to run out. I could not let them go because it was during the day. Somebody would recognize them. And I was not sure that the Major is not speaking to the head of the Gestapo, and he's on the way to get us. So we made a quick decision. They will go underneath the gazebo. And if in 3 days I will not come and get them, that means I am arrested or dead. Then they have on their own, they have to go through the window and go 8 kilometers to the place where other Jewish people were hiding in a forest. We said goodbye, and I tried to camouflage as best as I know the evidence that many people live in the cellar. About 3 hours, the Major came. He was drunk. He passed me by. I needed to know. I needed to know what his decision is. He made it his decision that he will help. He will not let us die, but I would have to pay the price. It was not easy, but there was so many lives depending. I did have to give myself to the old Major, but we were surviving. Now it was 1943, 44, and in the early part of 44, the Major told me that now the Russians were fighting the German and trying to push the German from Ukraine through Poland to Germany. At that time, one of the Jewish men, Henry Weinbaum, who was like Major, tall and slender, he was married to a Christian girl. I was collaborating with her. She brought a slate and a horse. The Major was in Lviv, another part of the town. And at that time, Henry Weinbaum put Major's uniform, his hat, his coat. We put 3 men on the bottom of the slate, covered them with the blankets. We put shovels and other things that you need to dig some bigger holes for the women. Can you imagine to live in sub-zero temperature underneath in a hole underneath the tree? But people were surviving. I made a twice trip that day to the forest, and 6 men were dead. Major did not even know, because he did discover only the women. And he did not ask who else was there, and we did not tell him. Now it was 1944 in February. The front was coming so close to Tarnopol. Now the Russians were fighting the German and coming closer and closer to the town of Tarnopol. Everybody started running out of town. Polish, Ukrainian, the front was coming to town. Beginning of March 1944, Helen brought a slate and a horse. We put the women, wrap them in a blankets, we put chairs, we put luggage, we look like everybody else running out of town. I brought them to the forest and I remained with them. March 15, 1944, Red Army took that part of Poland. Now my friends were free to start new life. But May the 4th, 1944, little boy was born. Little boy whose life began in German Medjugorje. For me, it was payments in full to see that young, wonderful life sprout from ashes of destructions. I did see the little boy 4 years ago. He was 44 years old man, and his son was bar mitzvah. The third generation survived. And I was so honored and so thrilled to be for that wonderful occasion. And you know, I am so rich, and I am so happy. I left my friends there in Ukraine. They were free, and I wanted to find my family. And at that time, I joined the partisans to reach my home. I came to United States in 1949. I was alone, without money, family, marketable skills. But I knew Yiddish, so I survived in New York. In 1957, I was married, and a little girl was born, and I put the biggest sign on my memory, do not disturb. I did not want to know about war, Holocaust. I wanted to raise my little girl. She married, she will become beautiful young girl, married, and in this same time I was reading newspaper which say Holocaust never happened. It is Jewish propaganda. Well, that made me mad. How anybody can say so? 6 million of Jewish people, millions of other nationalities died because of Hitler. So, my husband belonged to Rotary Club, he invited me to speak, and in 1980, I told my story for the first time to the Rotarian in Yorba Linda. There was a rabbi, Rabbi Asa from Temple Batikva. He invited me to speak for the first time in Temple. He sent my story to Jerusalem, to Yad Vashem. And from Yad Vashem, we received 4 letters from people I saved. First letter was from the young man whose life began in German Medjugorje. He called me mother. You know, this is still the most wonderful word, a mother. I was so excited. So in 1982, I was invited to Jerusalem to plant the tree on the Avenue of the Righteous. And there I made a vow that for the rest of my life, I will try to bring people together, regardless of nationalities, religion, color, or creed. And I want to tell you, young Jewish children, you know how wonderful to see the new generation, to see your faces growing, learning. A nation started from the ashes. And that's what I want to do. And I wanted to tell you, be proud that you're Jewish. Be proud. And reach to others. Israel needs friends, cannot exist alone. Have the courage also, if you hear that somebody start calling names, a nigger or kike or Don Paul or something, tell them, stop it. Don't speak to me like that. You must do it. Because if you don't, the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, the Ku Klux Klans, they will rise in power. And there would never be a peace. That's what I come to share with you. I am come only for two reasons. Because I love you, and because you are the last generation to be able to listen to the eyewitness testimony. I love you. Thank you. God bless you, my little children. Thank you so much.